Ed, for that amazing introduction. Before I say anything else, I have to say this because I've been walking around this convention center, and I have to say that this is a really good-looking group of people in this room right now. Can you turn to the person next to you and say, "You look good"? I like it. All right, now that we've gotten that out of the way and we're all best friends, I can ask you all the question I really want to ask you. And the question is, how many of you have ever bought a textbook before? Raise your hand. All right, now keep your hand in the air if that textbook was expensive. Yes or yes. All right, so set the hands down. I had this book that was a business law book, cost me $150. And at the end of the semester, you know this, right? At the end of the semester, the saving grace of textbooks is that we get to sell them back to the bookstore. So I took my book, I went back to the bookstore, and I handed it towards the lady, and instead of taking it, she started to laugh at me. I'm like, "Why are you laughing?" And she goes, "Oh, well, that's an old edition textbook. We won't buy those back anymore. And so we don't need it because we have a new edition coming out." And I'm like, "You don't need it." I never want to do business law again in my life. But I knew, and I was frustrated because I was out $150. So I started walking back, and I passed by the computer lab. And so I went into the computer lab, and I looked online to see how much this textbook was selling for on Amazon. And I noticed it was selling for $75. So I listed my book on Amazon. I went to a class. I came back an hour later, logged into my email, and it said, "You've got mail." And sure enough, in 1 hour, my book sold for $75. I thought to myself, I was like, "Holy smokes, this is great. I just made $75. But then I started to think about it. Wait a second, that class that I'm in, they all have that same old edition textbook that they're gonna go to the bookstore, she's gonna laugh at them, but they're not gonna think to sell it online." Because one of the things I discovered about college students is that most college students think that college is car to class, class to class, class back to car. And that's their entire college experience. One thing I learned as a student leader is that college is all about car to all these activities, to getting involved on campus, to hanging out in the provost's office, to talking to the staff after class, and then eventually back to class, and then eventually back to the car or my room. And so in that space, I said, I bet they're not going to think to sell it online. So the next day, I walk in front of the class, and I'm like, "Hey, everyone, my name's Tom, and I know you have these old edition textbooks that you can't sell back. And because I'm so giving of my time, my energy, and my money, I'm willing to buy all your books for $35 a piece." What do you think they said? Yeah, and I didn't actually have the money at the time, but they trusted me because I had so much social capital because I was a student leader on campus. So I got all 40 of their books, went back to the computer lab, listed them all online for $75, went to several classes, came back later, logged back in, and it said, "You've got lots of mail." And sure enough, every single book sold for $75. And I thought to myself, "Holy smokes, I'm not eating ramen noodles tonight. I'm going all out. It is a Taco Bell night tonight." I was so excited. But then my mind started to think bigger, and I said, "Wait a second. I bet there's other classes on campus that have these same old edition textbooks." And because I was a super involved student leader, I had connections with all the faculty, staff, and administration on campus to the point where I could walk into almost any faculty's office and be like, "Yo, teach." Well, I didn't actually say that, but like, "Hey, teacher," and I would talk to them. And one thing I discovered as a student leader is that proximity is power. The closer my relationships are with those in leadership positions, the more opportunities naturally came my way. So I would walk into these teachers' offices and I would ask them, "Hey, do you know when your book's going to turn over? Do you know when your book's going to turn over?" And I started finding all these other classes. So then I started walking into these classes that I wasn't even in, and I go, "Hey, everyone, my name's Tom. I'm not even in your class, but I know that you have these old edition textbooks that you can't sell back. And because I'm giving them my time, my energy, and my money, I'm willing to buy all your books for $25 a piece." What do you think they said? Yep, bought all their books, went to the next class, bought their books, next class, bought their books, went back to the computer lab, listed them all online, sold them. And as the weeks went on, I was making more money selling old edition textbooks than I was with my regular job. That actually quit my regular job just to sell textbooks. But at one point, I started to feel like I was running out of textbooks to sell. I felt like a textbook junkie at one point. It's like, "I need more," And I was like, "Who's the dealer on our campus?" "The bookstore lady." So then I went back to the bookstore lady, and she's still there laughing, and I said, "Hey, I have a question for you. What do you all do with the old edition textbooks that you don't sell to us, but you can't sell back to the distributor because they're old edition?" I'd done some research. And she paused for a moment, and she opened up this back room filled with 5,000 old edition textbooks. And I thought to myself, Because I'm so giving of my time, my energy, and my money, I'm willing to buy all your books. And I found out they sold them for 50 cents a pound. I'm willing to buy all your books for 25 cents a pound. And she agreed. And she contracted with me to buy all their books every semester and ship them to my place so I could sell them online. And then they had 7 other bookstores in the Chicagoland area that I would go and pick up all their books to sell them online. And as the weeks went on, I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're like, Tom, did you sleep on a bed of textbooks? Yes, I did. I didn't care because at the peak, I was selling $1.5 million worth of stuff to people all over the world. The same point, though, is I wish that at the end of this story, I could put up like that Bitmoji of me on a boat with a turtleneck and call it an end, and like that was the happy ending. But it didn't happen like that because the textbook stores realized that they could do it themselves, and they cut my contracts off. They shut me out. And I went from this to this. And I remember at the moment that with being a student leader, there were moments where I was so frustrated. And just out of curiosity, how many of you have ever hosted an event, you put a ton of energy into it, and then the day of the event shows up and hardly any students show up? Raise your hand. Just a few of you. Okay, just check it. All right, raise your other hand if you've ever started the beginning of the year with your executive board of students, and they're super motivated, they're super excited, and they're all there, and then halfway through the year, half the students there and half the motivation's there. Raise your hand. We've been there. And I was there many, 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 many times as a student leader. And one of the things I discovered as a student leader is that when that happens, there's opportunities for resilience to show up. Because we're gonna get knocked down at some point along the journey. In fact, it happened several times for me when I was involved on campus, where I would host events like that. And so I said, now this is a chance though, to do what I truly, truly, truly want to do, and that's become a professional speaker. And I was so excited because this speaker came to my campus named Patrick Combs. Some of you may know him. Came to my campus, and after the speech, I walked up to him and I said, Patrick, I want to do absolutely what you're doing right now. And he looked at me and said, Tom, that's awesome. Just so you know, 99.9% of students who say that never follow up. Well, I'm going to be part of that 1%. I mean, not that 1%, the one that actually does something and follows up. And so I did, and I followed up with him, and he said, well, Tom, the first thing you have to do is you have to go to one of these activities conferences. And so I did. I had a class at night, and I drove from Chicago, where I grew up, all the way down to Atlanta, where the conference was at. And I'm there in Atlanta, and I arrive at 7 o'clock a.m. And my first session starts at 8. Now, I couldn't get into the room at the hotel, and so what I did is I freshened up in the hotel lobby. Well, not in the lobby, in the hotel lobby bathroom. I wasn't like getting naked in the lobby, awkward. And so I show up, and I go into the hotel lobby, I change, and I go to my ed session room. And I set up my projector, my computer, I set up my sound, I had everything ready. And then I stood at the doorway waiting for the students to show up. And I look across the hall from me, and there, across the hall in his ed session is Patrick Combs. I thought, wow. This is so cool. I get to present at the same conference with my idol. And I'm thinking this is the best thing ever. And I'm so excited. And so the students start showing up, 7:50. They start filling into Patrick's room. They're giving him high fives. They're hugging him, like saying hi to Patrick. 7:55 shows up. More students are filling into his room. His room's starting to get so packed. And I look back at my room, and it's so empty. It's like the Donald Trump inauguration. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. Let's go back. So I go, and his room's filling up so much, and I go 7:58, 7:59. His room gets so full that they don't allow anyone else into his room. And these 2 students start walking down the hallway, and they try to go into Patrick's room, but they can't. They won't let him in because it's too full. So they look across at me, standing in the doorway, and what can best be described as one of those Sarah McLachlan commercials. My shoulders are slouched down, my head's down, and I'm like, ah. And sure enough, they decide to come join me in my room. And in that moment, I had this thing where I had this vision in my head that this room was going to be packed. And the reality of the situation was that 2 students showed up. And some of you are nodding your head right now because you've been there many, many times. And I thought to myself, man. So I delivered my presentation to the 2 students, but I was defeated. I was defeated because what I thought was going to happen didn't happen. But I remember those moments back at college when I would host an event and no one would show up. I remember when half my e-board wouldn't be there. I remember when I would assign a bunch of activities and try and lead the group and people wouldn't follow through. And so then I said, you know what? There's redemption coming up. And that redemption at this conference is this thing where we got to showcase in front of all the schools that were there. And I really wanted to make a splash at this showcase, like something epic. So I don't know if you remember at the time, but this was many years ago, but American Idol was on, and there was this performer on American Idol called William Hung. Some of you remember him. If you don't, I brought a video with me so you can remember.
She bangs. Oh, baby, when she moves, she moves. I go crazy cause she looks like a flower, but she stings like a bee. Like every girl in history. She bangs, she bangs. I'm wasted by the way she...
Thank you. You can't sing, you can't dance, so what do you want me to say?
I already gave my best, and I have no regrets at all.
Good for you.
That's good. Now that's
excellent,
good. That's
William.
good.
That's the best attitude yet.
You know, I have no professional training of singing
No.
or dancing, so...
Well, there's the surprise of the century.
So I said to myself, Tom, this is your epic moment to shine. So I asked the tech crew, I said, hey, can you shut all the lights off and have a spotlight on me, and I'm going to impersonate William Hung in front of the entire crowd of 700 people. Lights go on, I get on stage, she bangs, and I remember it felt like I was at the Apollo because people booed me literally off stage. It was such a bad move. And so I walk off stage, and I was thinking to myself, this dream, this passion that I had to want to become a speaker was just falling flat every single effort I took towards it. And so I went into the bathroom after that keynote in front of everyone, and I had to go to the bathroom, and I actually urinated blood. Don't laugh, this is a serious medical condition right now. And I'm sitting there, and I get out of the bathroom, and I think to myself, man, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through all this stress and effort? And then I went back to my moments in college when I was a student leader, and I thought about those times when I was the head of 2 organizations, I was an orientation leader, when I was running, when I had to take care of all the classes, including finals coming up. I was also involved in the community on Big Brothers Big Sisters, and on top of all that, I had a job that I had to take care of. And I'm thinking about those moments, and I thought to myself, wait a second, I've felt really, really hot water before. I've been in this spot many times as a college student because of the activities I was doing outside the classroom. I got this. So I put that resilience cap on, and I started to go to work, because I remember the best way we got students to show up at our event was by building relationships with all the students on our campus. So I started walking around to everyone I possibly could. I'm like, hey, my name's Tom, would you come to my session come up? My name's Tom, come to my session. And I was trying to get everyone. And I remember I was running late for my final session, and I'm walking down the hallway, and I could hear noise coming from the hallway. And I start getting closer to my room, and I notice that the noise is coming from my ed session room. And I walk in, and it's packed. There's students filling all the seats. They're filling up the seats on the side. They're standing against the wall. In the back on the heater, they're sitting on the floor. And I look around, and I have to say, I felt so fucking good in that moment right there. Because all the hard work was coming together in this spot to see this happen in this ed session. And from that moment, I kept moving forward. Because from that moment, I wish, though, someone would have told me at the beginning that the vision in my head is over here, but the reality of my actions are right here. And every day that I wake up and I try and do something, and it's ugly and it's sloppy and it's nowhere near the vision, that's okay, because that's a thing called the vision gap. And if I keep working towards it, I can eventually get to that vision gap. And I tell students now that I'm an overnight success 10 years in the making. It took 10 years for me to get to this spot. But because I showed up every day to work, I showed up in integrity, and I showed up at being true to the person that I want to be. And now I go around, and I've spoken at many of your schools and even gotten to speak around the world. And now at the end of my sessions, students come up to me, and they're like, Tom, I love what you do. I want to do what you do. And I look at them, and I say, awesome. Just so you know, 99.9% of students never follow up. But you know who does follow up every single time? The student leaders. The ones who are fully involved in the co-curricular space. And I stand here today as a living, breathing testament to the value of the co-curricular space. And I stand here as someone that I look out at this crowd here, and if you walk out of these doors remembering nothing else but this one thing, know that the work that you do is critical to the student's success while they're in college, but more importantly, after they graduate. Because the work you do matters, and it matters to their success. And that's why I want to thank you for the work you do. I want to thank you for giving me this chance to be up here on this stage. Thank you, NASPA. I appreciate it.